Thank you for joining me this week for the Author Stories podcast. As always, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Third Scribe. Third Scribe is a blogging platform for authors where authors can meet readers in a full social media experience. Check them out at thirdscribe.com.
My name is John Edwards. It's actually John Edwards, which years ago was a lot cooler than it is now. It's kind of fun. But I'm a writer living in Los Angeles. I actually kind of split my time between San Francisco and Los Angeles, but I've been on the West Coast for 28 years, 18 years.
Wow.
Since 1996. My math is not my strong suit, which is why I write. But and since coming out here, I've been pursuing work as a writer, primarily TV or film. I have written a few short plays and things like that. And then, of course, like anyone else who's come out here and pursued that career, I've done my share of executive assistant jobs and odd jobs and one or two actual, respectable jobs for a while. I've been the last 9 years, in addition to everything else, I've been a stay-at-home parent to triplets, my
Wow.
kids, which are the reason why I still go up to San Francisco, which is where they are. And that, of all the adventures to write about, of all the adventures to actually have, kids, I think, are the number one.
Absolutely.
Are the number one adventure, definitely.
Oh, yeah. My wife and I have 5 kids. I completely understand.
Oh, my God. Well,
Yeah.
you've got me beat.
No multiples, and I understand that having multiples brings a whole different layer and level to parenting. So my hat's off to you for having 3 at a time. That's amazing.
Well, thank you, and to you. Yeah, the biggest thing about that is that there are no hand-me-downs. So it's like, ouch. And one will never be able to babysit the others, and there are certain jobs around the house that just are never going to happen for us.
Wow.
But it's been great. We've been blessed. The kids are happy and healthy and thriving. They love school and they love to read. And I always joke with people I'm talking to, if in a pitch meeting or whatever, that I have a built-in focus group because my kids are very, very finicky about what they watch. They're very sort of guarded with their time because we don't let them watch TV all the time, and they only really get to watch on the weekends. And then it's pretty much fair game. But during the week, it's pretty much you come home, you do homework, and you do pretty much anything else other than watch TV. So because it is such a finite amount of time that they have, they're very discerning, I think, about what they do, what they watch, and how they spend their free time. Because even still, even on the weekends, a good deal of their time is spent out of the house at museums or events or other activities, that are not TV related. So even though they've got free reign on the weekend, they don't really have a full. It's not like they've got 72 hours where they just veg out or anything. So.
Right. Well, John, you talked about coming out to LA or coming out to the West Coast. Where are you originally from?
Originally, I'm from Lexington, Kentucky. I was born and raised in the Bluegrass.
Okay.
And got both my undergraduate degrees from the University of Kentucky, and then moved when I was about 25 or 26. Moved to Pittsburgh, and I did my graduate work at Carnegie Mellon, and so I lived there for about 2 years. And then after I graduated, that's when I decided, rather than going back to Lexington, I decided to strike out for the West Coast. I basically decided over the period of time that I was at Carnegie that writing really wasn't just a pipe dream. The biggest thing about when I was in graduate school versus deciding to go back home or strike out for the West Coast was really taking sort of a personal inventory, taking stock of what the industry really was and who I really was and what I was, what made me tick, as it were, and deciding whether I was like a lot of people and just sort of in love with the idea of, living in Hollywood and, being part of that crowd, or if it was something that I really wanted to do. I mean, if it was really a passion, and I decided that it was really a passion. I really wanted to do it. I was crazy enough to pack up the car. It's like the old cliche, packed up whatever would fit in the car and literally drove across the country. And I knew, I think, one person really at the time, and only barely. And I slept on her couch for a couple of months while I was getting my feet under me.
Wow.
Um, but I knew when I got here um, that if I had made a mistake or if I had made the right decision, one way or the other, I would know as soon as I hit town. I'd have that. I knew that the gut feeling would let me know if I'd made a horrible mistake, and I've never looked back. You know, so I feel fortunate that I took the time to really think about what it was I was doing before I did it,
Yeah.
and now it's like, okay, I'm here to write. What am I going to write? And for me, a lot of it has been, especially lately, has been, animated or children's material. Even before I had kids, I've always been a fan, um, particularly of cartoons. I mean, I was weaned on MGM cartoons like Tom and Jerry
Oh
and
yeah.
Warner Brothers, and yeah, I mean, I love Disney, but and I think you and I are probably about the same age. I mean, when we were growing up, Disney wasn't on all the time. It didn't have its
No.
own channel, so
No, you had that
seeing a Mickey
Sunday.
Mouse cartoon was like a big deal.
Exactly. You had the Sunday night program. What was the
Yeah, the Wonderful World of
Wonderful
Disney, and that
World
was
of
like,
Disney? Yeah,
ooh,
and it was hosted
yeah,
by Walt. And you would get an hour a week,
yeah,
maybe. And that's I
yeah.
don't think it was on all year round. I don't remember, but anyway, yeah. And
It
but
probably wasn't because, yeah, I mean, I remember that the shows used to be, in the summer typically was reruns, and
right,
so you wouldn't see anything new until the fall. I mean,
right.
I try to impress upon my kids who have no concept of having to wait an entire week
I
for the next episode of something,
yes, yeah,
It's like,
and
guys, back in the day,
yeah, and Saturday
I had to
mornings
wait
were
a whole week.
sacred.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
yeah,
and
stayed in the
waiting for
pajamas, got the cereal.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, waiting for Bugs Bunny
Oh
and
man.
the Warner Brothers, hour and a half was that was everything.
Oh. Oh, absolutely. And then that moment in like the early afternoon when you realize the last cartoon was done, there was like this
Right.
real depression. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, what am I going to do now for the rest of my week?
something
Oh,
stupid
it's
like
so sad.
football or golf would come on or something, and the day would be ruined.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, exactly. My dad loved golf, and I can't stand it. But and he would watch it. I mean, he played it, but he watched it, and that was the thing I never could understand. It's like, I mean, it's a boring sport to me anyway. But if
Right.
you're going to watch it, it's like compounding everything. It's like,
Right.
oh my god.
You're watching someone else
Um.
play a boring game. Yeah.
Oh, right. Oh, no. I'm much more of a participant
Me
than I
too.
am a watcher of sports.
Yeah, me too.
I would rather. There are a few things I like to actually do, and other than that, it's like with the Super Bowl and everything. It's like people have to remind me who's playing. Unless it's the Steelers, and then I kind of remember. But other than that, I'm like, I really don't care. I
Right.
just watch it for the commercials at halftime.
Right.
You know, so.
So,
but
so
but yeah, so
what did you study at Carnegie?
at Carnegie, I studied professional writing,
What does
which a
professional
lot of
writing
people
mean?
just consider that exactly. It is essentially the easiest way to describe it is technical writing and
Okay.
like business writing, like corporate communications. Actually, would be a very good way to sort of sum it up.
Okay.
Um, a lot of people sometimes think professional writing means like, oh, you write professionally, like as a novelist or whatever. That really falls more under the fine arts department than it
Right.
does the humanities and social sciences department, which is what I came from. So, um, ours is like it was like business communications,
Gotcha.
and of course I promptly, you know, didn't do that. Yeah, I got my degree and went right away in 180 degrees the other direction.
Yeah. I,
And everyone I know, all of my colleagues, they work like in Silicon Valley or Chicago or someplace, and they work for the big consulting firms or um, the computer companies and that sort of thing. And it's I God bless them. I mean, they're happy with what they do, and they have rewarding careers, and they do something interesting and whatever. I have one colleague actually lives over in the UK, uh, doing human interface type work,
wow.
and has a great time, but I couldn't do it. It just wasn't for me. So
Uh,
I had to
did you
go somewhere else. And I go ahead.
did you know while pursuing that graduate degree that you were going to go to Hollywood, or was this something that kind of when you finished up, you said, you know what, I've got to make a decision now, and now I'm going to do it? Like, was this something you were working toward all along? You were getting that graduate degree?
No, actually, it was something that was always a passion in the back of my mind, but partly because of where I grew up. Um, the idea of going off to Hollywood just wasn't nearly as common.
Right.
I don't want to say my parents didn't support me or anything like that, but it never even really got to that. I just got to that sense of like, oh man, it's such a long, it's so far away, and what sort of training do I have, and whatever I need, I have to get like a real job, kind of thing. And I did community theater when I was in college and high school, and enjoyed it, but always, as much as I loved it, I was never quite um, brave enough to say, I really want to do this more than anything else. So I always had looked at it as, I'd go get a real job that makes use of my ability and desire to write, and then I'd do this stuff on the side, and that would be enough. And then when I got to Carnegie Mellon, I think it was particularly the fact that I was at Carnegie that was the thing, because it was so well known for the professional writing program, but it's also one of the top drama programs in the country. So I'm that close. I'm literally next door to the fine arts department, and I guess you would say I got bitten by the bug, but it was more that it just got worse once I got there and actually saw it
Mm,
and could take part of it. And by my final semesters, I was spending more time in the fine arts department and taking classes in. I took like public relations and stuff like that, but I also took writing for media and screenwriting and writing for digital media and stuff like that.
oh, cool.
And I realized, I could really do this. This isn't just like I had mentioned before, it wasn't just a pipe dream, but there's a real shot at this. And more than that, I really just admitted to myself that this really first and foremost is what I wanted to do. And that's what I think anybody should do. Even if even if your passion is selling insurance or doing something, or working with numbers, because heaven forbid I ever work with numbers because I'm horrible at it. Um, but if someone has that kind of passion, and I say this to my kids too, it's like that's what you need to do first. Do that first, and then if for whatever reason it doesn't work out, then you can do something else. But yeah, never sell yourself short, and never be timid about the thing that really just gets you up in the morning and drives you. Um, so it was something that I finally came to realize and came to admit while I was at Carnegie, thinking that I would go and get a degree and go work in advertising or something like that.
Right.
And I just realized, no, it's that's close, but there's more to it than
Yeah.
that. So
How did theater and the fine arts division, just in general, how did that affect your writing? Besides like the screenwriting classes and things like that, but the actual theater side of it. How did that affect your writing?
That affected me, I think, by giving me a real understanding of what everyone else involved with a production does and sees. I mean, I got an appreciation for what the actor goes through when they look at the words I write,
Yeah.
because they're the ones who really have to wear it and go out there. You know, if I write something and it's great, yippee, they're still going to see. Man, the first thing they're going to see is the actor. So the
Right.
actor is really the one who's on the line first, and
Right.
then because an actor can make me look really good, an actor can make me look really bad, and it could still be the same line, but so an appreciation of just how things sound versus how they look on the page, um, and visually. A lot of what I gained from theater experience was thinking visually and writing as visually as I could. Painting images of the moderator of the writers lab that I belong to, the Coordinate Writers Lab, always says that movies are pictures or stories told in pictures, and so I try to keep that in mind when I'm writing. So the
Yeah.
words actually a lot of times are kept to a minimum, but hopefully with great impact. With a lot of they conjure smells and sights and sounds, and then to a large degree, I think the audience takes it from there and kind of adds to it. I don't necessarily spell out everything, but just the important stuff, and then it helps to draw the reader in, and they contribute to the work as well, and I think that's how I approach my favorite books to read. Um, in my mind, look very different probably than the same book read by somebody else, or when you go to see it when you see it adapted into a movie, and you're like, wow, that's nothing like what I imagined.
Right. Right.
This that main character looks nothing like my main character, and
Right.
and it's still fine, but it's like um, there's a very clear image, I think, when I write, and a lot of that has to do with my theater experience.
Yeah.
Um, you know.
I would encourage any beginning writer, especially, to take a theater class or do a little community theater production or something like that, because the act of uh, not only getting in front of people, but interacting with other actors and learning uh, to take emotion and putting life to that, I think is
Hmm.
invaluable experience for a writer to. I think it'll really take your writing to the next level. It's
Oh,
especially your
absolutely.
dialogue for sure.
Yeah, because again, it's you can look at something on the page and it'll have a certain effect for you, but then you hear the same thing said and spoken, and it's different. It's very different. It doesn't sound right
Right.
sometimes. Things work. Some things work better a certain way if they're going to be read, whereas if they're going to be said, they need to be read in a different way. And for me, I think that's one of the things, again, going back to my writer's lab, that I love, is because part of the process is when the writers present their material, it's done as a cold read. So actors actually get up and do basically a staged reading of whatever section you're presenting. And, when you actually hear people interpreting it or struggling with it, you realize, oh, there's a whole other level to this. There's a whole other, like you said, there's a whole other level of emotion that you might need to fine tune in your writing before it really comes across to your audience. And yeah, I agree with you 100% that when you actually have to, when you do a production, you really come into contact with that, and you develop an appreciation for just how complicated it can be to write even the simplest emotion, to
Right.
somebody.
Right.
But when it works, man, oh, it's so great. It's the
Yes, it is.
best.
It is. It makes it all worth it. Uh, so you finished at Carnegie, and you said I'm loading up
Hmm.
the car, I'm heading out west,
Yep.
and you camp out on the couch of a friend for a couple months. What did you do to find your place and to start? When you
Yeah.
and we've all heard the stories of someone that just had the guts to just load up and go do it. But when you get there, what do you do? How do you even know where to start?
Yeah. Well, a lot of it is you don't you don't. You just you just have to get in and start floundering, and then things sort of shake loose. But for me, again, I can't say enough about having gone to Carnegie. And sometimes I'll call it Carnegie, sometimes I call it Carnegie. I think the proper term is Carnegie, but I don't always remember to do that.
Gotcha.
There's a very strong alumni network, and I think that first and foremost, working contacts, getting out and just meeting people and remembering everybody and not sort of dismissing anybody because maybe they're not a writer or they're not an actor, maybe they're like a set designer, and you're thinking, well, how's a set designer ever going to happen? You never know. You absolutely never know.
Right.
I've had people completely unrelated to the industry who have given me some great contacts and have actually been entrees into meeting some of the biggest people in the industry because they knew them in a completely different life before they came out here. So you just never know. So I worked the Carnegie drama alumni network. I got involved with that group, which is a great group of people, actors, designers, set decorators, costumers, directors, all strata and all age groups. There were people there who had been at the university long before I ever got there, and there were some that were there the same time I was, and then there were some that had come out just a few years after me even. And anytime there was any sort of a get together, whether it was formal or informal, you just hang out and you just start talking, and then you say, hey, this is what I'm doing. I just hit town. This is where I came from. Um, and then the more you talk, the more you find your commonalities, and you just kind of go from there. Aside from that, it was looking for industry jobs. So I read Variety, I read the Hollywood Reporter, I went online. There were a number of websites that have entertainment specific jobs. A lot of them are production assistant or executive assistant type jobs. And I'd go and I'd interview for those because those are a great way to get your ear to the ground and get to meet people, and you get into the studios, and there's a lot of opportunity there, and you see how the business end of things work. And a lot of times, if you're an assistant, you're working with other assistants who are doing the same thing you're doing, and who all aspire to write the next great blockbuster or the next great genre changing film, that sort of thing. And you end up forming friendships, and you end up finding someone you can collaborate with and um, do projects on your own, short films, whatever. Which is I've done a few. I just had an animated short. We just completed an animated short with a guy that I worked with years ago at a startup company, and I'm hoping to do my first live action short this summer with a director who was a friend of mine from my writer's lab, years ago. And we've just stayed in touch, and things like that.
Yeah.
And then if you're a writer, you just any other time you're writing, you just write, 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 write. You go
Right.
and you watch film, and if I imagine if you're an actor, you're taking workshops and finding any opportunity you have to work your craft, even if you're not getting paid for it, which usually usually is the case, unfortunately.
Right. But
At least at first, eventually, things kind of come along or whatever. But yeah,
right. But you look for
so you just
opportunities in places that you that people may not typically think. You just look for places to find a place for your talents to fit, huh?
Yeah, I think that the best way I can describe it, and again, this is after having been out here for years and having made plenty of mistakes, is you just keep your eyes open to anything. Um, the person standing next to you in line at the 7-Eleven, you might overhear a conversation and they're talking about something that maybe they're talking about a show that you want to work on or something. You're like, hey, any place as out here, because it's an industry town. I mean, if you took out, if Hollywood didn't exist in LA, I don't think LA would exist. I mean, there'd be no point.
Right.
It's a defining thing. But yeah, you just constantly look for opportunities, and then the other thing to that, the corollary to that, which is something I've really come to appreciate since moving back to LA about a year and a half ago, is even more than looking for opportunities, you look for a way to create your own opportunities. So instead of looking for a job on a movie or a job on a show, it's like, well, you write a script and you go out and you shoot your own movie, shoot your own short, go to festivals, and then you've actually nowadays, particularly because now that you've got content, there's a lot more opportunity through like YouTube and through the internet. You don't even need to be at a studio. You don't have to have a production deal or anything. If you just have the means to shoot it, even on an iPhone, and put it up on YouTube, you could be the next big thing, because the people who are looking for the material are casting their nets wider than ever, and it used to be, we're looking for books. Now it's, books and comic books, books and graphic novels and comic books and children's books and board games and whatever's trending on the internet. I mean, that Justin Bieber, as much as I hate to bring him up, his whole thing, if it weren't for YouTube, there'd be no Justin Bieber. So, I mean,
Right.
his whole career was because of that. It's the same thing with publishing as well. It's like you don't have to have a big house, because
Right.
you can make high quality books on your own through things like Create Space and Lulu. That if people don't know, they'd never know it wasn't put out through like Random House or whatever. And if it's good quality work, people will find it.
Yeah. Not to even mention
So
the Kindle revolution, and anyone can create an ebook that is,
yeah.
that sits right beside Stephen King and John Grisham and whomever. It's that
Oh right, yeah.
yeah, this whole indie mentality has really infected uh, everything. I mean, like you're talking about, there are people discovered on YouTube, and um, filmmakers that are breaking in with an iPhone, and
Uh huh.
it's crazy. The technology really has put the power in the people's hands, as cliche as
Yeah.
it sounds.
Well, and for better or for worse too. I mean, it's the same thing we saw with desktop publishing back in the early '90s, I guess, mid
Yeah.
'90s, whatever. And what it means is, I think, yeah, there's a lot more crap out there, basically, because it can be done a lot cheaper, and
Well, yeah.
any old Jets can do it. And some of the safeguards that we used to have that would kind of separate that out and save us from all the equivalent of junk mail and spam isn't there. But at the same time, people who really deserve to be heard and who really have a voice, who might get missed, trying to go to the bigger houses, now have a chance of getting out there. And
Yeah.
that to me is exciting. And that to me, especially as I was trying to get things published, was very encouraging, because I came to a point, again, it was one of those sort of take stock moments. It was a gut check moment. It's like, look, am I writing because I want to have somebody look at it and say, oh, isn't this nice? Or am I writing it because I really want to write it and get it out there? What's more important to me? It's like, does it have to be picked up by a publisher, or if I have the means to put it out there myself and sell it out the back of my car or whatever, do I care enough about what I'm writing that I would do that? And I realized, yeah, I would. And as I was exploring the whole self-publishing thing, luckily, again, it's that whole idea of, you keep looking for opportunities and you keep working and you keep moving on. I came across this small publishing company called Red Heart Books, which was, interested in one of my stories, and I'm hoping is interested in, others after that. But we so far seem to have a really good um, relationship, and it's, um, I mean, and they're a legit, and I say that, quote unquote, because I mean, as long as you get the book out there, I guess technically it's legit. But I mean, legit in the fact that, they're not asking me to, pay to have my book published, and it's not a scam thing. I mean,
Right, not a vanity
they are
press.
it's not a vanity press and anything like that. They have a whole marketing strategy. They invest in their authors, and all of that sort of thing. So, on some level, that there's still a sense of legitimacy that comes with that sort of thing, because it means, somebody's willing to put out their money um, on your work, and there's a certain amount of pride that comes with that. A certain amount of,
Sure.
validation. But on top of that, I like working with a smaller press. I like being the bigger fish in a small pond, and it's easier to get a hold of people, and you really feel
Right.
like you're a team and you're not just a number, or, until you're making, J.K. Rowling money, they're not really paying attention to you, that kind of thing. These guys really are great. They helped me find the illustrator that is doing the book. Her name's Erin Bow, and she's an incredibly talented young lady out of Minnesota, I think it was. Um, and the publisher's actually based out of Seattle, and I'm here in LA. So I've never actually met my illustrator face to face yet, and I've only met my publisher once face to face. Everything else has been, like we're doing now. It's all been
Yeah,
over the computer,
that's really
and
awesome.
it's been great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun because your opportunity to meet people and the options you have are just so much broader. Because it's not just people who are in LA and have a certain LA mindset or whatever. They're any number of places, and have completely different experiences that, when you find the right person, I think really adds to the story that you're putting out, whether it's a script or a children's book, in my case, this time around, or a play or anything. And it's, the collaborative process of it is one of the things I enjoy the most. So it's been fantastic for me so far.
That's awesome.
We'll see.
Uh,
We'll see.
well, you have several books in the children's genre. How did you get started writing for that audience?
I used to write, for fun. But the first, like, sort of published thing I ever did was actually an assignment for Disney. It was a contact that I had made while I was an executive assistant at Disney. Um, a friend of mine who was a senior editor at Disney Publishing at the time, I had gotten to know her, because one of the things I would do is I would go through the emails and I would just see, okay, who's in publishing, who's in where, who's wherever I want to be, and then I would write them and I would say, hi, I'm a fellow employee, I'm a fellow cast member here at Disney, and here's who I am. Basically, it was like LinkedIn before LinkedIn. I mean, I was using email the same way I use LinkedIn, and I met her, very talented, lovely lady by the name of Vicky Saxon, and we hit it off, and we had a lot of the same ideas about children's literature and stuff, and so an opportunity came up to write a children's book for Disney, based on Sleeping Beauty. It was like a tie-in book, basically, which talked about the storyline was, what happens at Sleeping Beauty's wedding. What happens after happily ever after. And luckily, she was in charge of that project, so she said, "Hey, do you want to take a stab at this? We've got." I'm not sure exactly what had happened prior to her calling me, but they were up against a really tight deadline, and they needed it in about 2 weeks. And she said, "Look, would you like to take a shot at this?" And I said, "Sure." I've got three kids. At that point, they were 7, I guess. So we have like every Disney and Pixar movie ever made.
Right.
So I very quickly, yeah, really shock. Um, and so I just went to the bookshelf and I pulled out the DVD and I'm watching Sleeping Beauty again. And I'm like, okay, kind of refreshing myself about who the players were. And then I pitched them an idea based on, okay, what would the wedding look like? And she was cool with it. And the kids actually were on President's Week break, which is also known as Ski Week. So we were in Tahoe that week. And so we'd go skiing during the day, and at night after the kids went down, I would go to the little, chalet or little restaurant that was by our hotel, and with my laptop, and I would just sit there and I'd write stories about Sleeping Beauty, and was able to turn it into them before the 2 weeks, and they liked what they saw, and I pride myself on being really easy to work with, and so if I write a word, it's not written in stone. It's like, let's talk about it. We can change things or whatever. I really like the collaborative process. So I think it makes me easy to work with, which I know a lot of people like. And I think is one of the main reasons people even return my phone calls. Because they know that picking up the phone from me is probably not going to give them, a heart attack or raise their blood pressure.
Well,
I
yeah,
might,
and just uh, in collaborating with people, just not being a jerk opens more doors than than you can imagine.
yes.
Uh,
Oh my
it-
God. One of the things, and this goes back to community theater.
yeah.
I had a couple of directors who I just loved dearly. I mean, like professors and teachers, and one of them, by the name of Sully White, told me once that if you're like the best actor in town, you're the obvious choice for a role that I'm casting, but you're the biggest jerk, and I know chances are I'm going to have to go bail you out at 2 in the morning for being drunk or something, the night before we open.
Right.
I'm going to go with the second best guy who I enjoy working with, and I think it's true out here too. I said, there's a lot to be said for not just being a not just being a talent, but really being an all around professional about it. And that means understanding, other people are there to do a job too, and other people have opinions, and other people have gone to school and put in blood, sweat, and tears, and have have worthwhile ideas, and you're not just the only thing out there. Um, and I think that the people I enjoy working with the most are people who have that sort of attitude. I've learned that attitude from them as well. But I think it's true. I think just just don't be a jerk.
Yeah. That will
Don't run up and interrupt somebody's Grammy speech. Come on, just basic stuff. Oh my God. Yeah, just
Oh, yeah.
things that just make
Yeah.
me
Just
cringe. Like,
just
God,
just don't be
but
a jerk. So
yeah,
when
just
you're
don't be a jerk.
so you're working on this project for Disney. How much creative control did they give you over? I mean, you're obviously working with
Yeah.
a very established IP for a very
Oh my God, yeah, like
established,
a legacy character.
yeah, a
Yeah.
legacy character. Like uh, how much creative input do you get into that process?
I will say this, whatever people might say about Disney, working with Disney or whatever, they gave me I was stunned by the amount of creative freedom I had, not only to write it, but I also had a great deal of graphic or visual input as well. I mean, I could
Wow.
say, okay, here's the story, and then on this page, I think it would look really cool if we had a picture of Prince Philip and the horse doing this. I mean, I think they were even expecting me to come up with all of that stuff, and then they would, lo and behold, you know, a couple of weeks later, there's that picture that I was talking about. So I got a remarkable amount of both artistic, by that I mean visual, as well as textual freedom, creative freedom, just all around. You know, other than, again, I didn't invent any new characters, and for my part, I tried to do my best to include all of the main characters that were in the story, and I think I pulled that off. I mean, I had all the three fairy godmothers, and the only person I don't think I had in there was the witch, for obvious reasons. Um,
Right.
I didn't have Maleficent in there, but I had the fathers and the mothers and um, the horse, Prince Philip. I had, pretty much everybody.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I was pleasantly surprised, and I took it very seriously that they gave me that kind of freedom. And I had a blast, and they were the publishing editors at Disney. I find are really incredibly giving, and genuinely love story, and really love what they do, and so they want to play.
That's
So they're not stingy with the ball, so which I've had a blast, and I'm not sure when this one is coming out, but they just recently uh, assigned me a book based on their Planes franchise. So it's
awesome.
another sort of a tie-in type book, and I know that the artwork and stuff was done, but I have no idea when it's going to be out. But I'm hoping that it gets out soon because it was a fun story that I think came off pretty well. They seem to be happy with it, so we'll just
That's
have to see.
that's
Yeah,
great. And I'm
yeah.
and the more you do for an established company like that, and they see that you turn in quality work and you're easy to work with, I'm sure that those doors open much more easily as it goes on.
I think so. I mean, again, it all comes down to the work is feast or famine a lot of
Right.
times, but it certainly helps if, they know that, it's like the Disney brand. It's like you have a brand. They know what they're going to get when they hire you. And if they're looking for, in my case, someone who's easy to work with, who takes direction and is open to the ideas they already have that they want to work with, and can get things in on time or ahead of time, um, you know uh, that works out well. They'll come back to me. I know that
Yeah.
they'll come back to me for that. And I know there have been other jobs with other companies that I think for that very same reason I've had repeat business from them as well. I mean, I haven't at this point. I'm not working constantly, but when I do work, I'm working for people like Disney and Warner Brothers, and so it counts.
Sure. Sure.
um, and I really feel like I have a good time with them, and
Yeah.
that we get along, and genuine. Like if we ever had a chance to go out to lunch, they would actually go out to lunch with me. Um, even if I didn't have, even if it wasn't to discuss something, if we were just going to hang out, we could actually hang out. If
Right.
but nobody in LA ever has time for anything. So
So tell me
theoretically,
about
theoretically, they'd
right,
hang out with me.
right. Yeah, theoretically. Uh, Tell me about the Triceratops.
Oh, thank you for asking. The Triceratops was actually a story idea I had, God, a few years ago. Actually, back when my kids would have been the right age for the book. Partly because it's taken so long for me to write it. They're too old for it now. But the idea is, put simply, not to be afraid of trying new things. And one of the ideas in this book that I hope and I think makes it a little different is that while people always tell you, don't be afraid to try new things and take a chance, whatever, they don't really tell you what happens if you do that and things don't go well? There's a whole other side to that. It's like, yeah, I took your advice and well, that stunk. That Brussels sprouts really do taste bad. Or I tried riding my bike without the training wheels and now I've skinned my knee. And it's like, well, then what do you do? So the idea behind this book is to sort of introduce kids to the idea that sometimes when you try, things won't go the way you want them to. And that's to say that they could go even better than you expected, but it could also mean that you're not going to be real happy with how they turn out. But be aware of that, and don't let it stop you from trying again and again and again. New things. Don't shy away from new experiences just because the last one may not have been so great. It's also, you learn something from all of it, and that's really the point. And I'm hoping, and I think my kids are like that now. I mean, I've tried to instill that in them. If it doesn't work out, that's okay. You tried. You're so much better off than the guy who never tried at all and just sat back and now is thinking, man, I wish I'd done that, or I wish I'd tried that, or I think I could have probably done that. Well, go do it. Go
Right.
do it and go fail, and it's okay because if you fail, you learn a lot of stuff anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and you've
you
proven
know,
that with your writing career, from packing up the car and launching out into something that you weren't even sure about, and I'm sure, like the rest of us, and that are in this, that there have been lots of missteps, and
oh
probably
God, yes.
going in directions that you never intended. But you
Yes.
wind up
Yeah.
somewhere because you opened up the front door and you went outside and tried something. So that's a great
Yeah,
lesson
and
for all of us.
I think so, because looking back on it now, even looking back on the missteps, and yeah, oh God, yes. Like the chairman says, mistakes I've made a few. I've made
That's right.
more than a few, but looking back on them, there's a certain pride to it. It's like, I did make those mistakes, but it's because I tried, and I'm still here, so I survived it. So there's
Right.
that too. Um, and in looking at the times that I didn't try, that I buckled under, that also it reinforced me. It's like, look, very rarely did that ever turn out well. So it just reinforces that there's no point to not try. Life is short, definitely, and now with each passing year, I'm realizing that more and more. And as a parent, one of the things that makes it most important to me about trying, not only for my own sake, my own career, is that I don't want my kids to be timid. I mean, there's so much wrong with the world, but there's also so much that's incredible with the world
Yeah.
that I don't want them to miss out. And I don't, who knows? I don't want them to miss out on possibly being a positive force that changes some of the wrong in the world. Who knows where people are going to go? But if they don't go, you know, I mean, that's the only thing for sure is like, well, if you never try, I know you're going to fail. It's just a given. So
That's
why
right.
not go and have a good time?
That's right. And
So,
that's great advice.
well, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Again, the book came about because I wanted to I leave my kids some advice or something, and hopefully some of the other books that I'll write, they're still going to be too young for them, but eventually I'll write books that are actually, older. Yeah,
Right.
I'll get faster to where I can actually write while they're still the age that's the demographic. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, I think especially for kids, I mean, there's a lot of there are a lot of books and there's a lot of value in a book that's just an enjoyable read or whatever. But I do try to put something a little more than that in, something instructive without getting preachy.
Right.
But just, here's what I found, and it was really cool, and this is why it was really cool. You'll go out and do your own thing, but here's what I learned, and you can see what you think about it. Um, because I really appreciate the lessons and the stories that my grandparents and my parents have taught me. I mean, I lost both of my um, grandparents this past year. I had lost on my dad's side, and they were the ones I was the closest to. I had lost the grandparents on my mom's side some time ago when I was pretty young. But I the things that endure, I think, from them, and this was in like the eulogies and stuff that I talked about at the funeral. Were the stories and the lessons that I had learned from them, and you know, again, that's I think part of what I think of um, when I'm writing for kids. I'd like to think when I'm writing other stuff like science fiction or things for adults that there's some sort of point to it as well. But I realize that in some cases that may just be for a paycheck, and hopefully it's good quality stuff. But
Right.
there's something about when you write for kids that you just kind of take it a little more seriously. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's probably
which
not.
is
You should take it
which is
all
kind
seriously, but there's something about when you write for kids. It's like you just take it a little more seriously.
yeah, which is it sounds kind of ironic when you think about it that that the thing that would seem to be more simplistic and more frivolous is the thing that we actually take
Hmm.
more serious. But I absolutely agree with you. There's
Yeah.
almost a weight and a responsibility to it. It seems like.
Yeah, I think you said it very eloquently there too. That it's like the simplistic thing is actually the more important, and because you're not. Man, another thing is too because you don't have you know 300, 400 pages to tell a story to a younger kid, because they can't handle it yet. So boiling it down to its most evocative, simple but clear story is also kind of the fun of it too. I think it's like I don't have one of the companies that I work for sometimes is a company called abcmouse.com, and they just started writing. They started doing a book division. They're an online company, but they just started doing a print division. And so when I've written books for them, I have to stay within the word range that they have deemed appropriate for different age groups. So, for example, I had this one assignment where I was writing about the different states of matter, solid, gas, and liquid. And if I remember correctly, I could not use the word solid or gas or liquid in the story.
Oh
So it was one
man.
of these things. It's like, really? You don't think kids would know that? But no. So I'm like, all right,
Oh
fine,
wow.
okay. So there's the challenge. I, I look at it from a standpoint of, okay, it can be done.
Right.
Let's just take that as a given. It can be done. Okay, now let's just figure out, how. Because
Right.
normally I think the too many people would look at it and say, well, I can't do that. It's like, no, no, no. Let's just for a moment, let's just assume that it can be done. How
Yeah.
is that going to look? How can you boil it down and so that a kid's going to enjoy it, and that a parent will enjoy reading it. That's the other thing too. Um, there is in the back of my mind there is an idea that while I'm hoping that the kids will be reading these, I would also hope that the parents would be willing to read them as bedtime stories or whatever, and not say, "Oh God, not that book again."
Yeah.
Um, so and that goes back to having grown up on Warner Brothers cartoons, where there are jokes in there for the parents too. There are jokes in there for the adults, and there are jokes in there for kids, and
That's right.
once you get older, you'll realize what they are. So it's
That's right.
it's
That's
it's
right.
trying to hit both. Um, because I know, look, some of the TV shows. Luckily, my kids were never into Barney or any of those really cloying, annoying things. I'm like, God, I could not. As a parent, I can't watch. I want to watch shows with my kids, but I can't watch this because this is just
Right.
crap.
Right.
Luckily, they. I made sure they knew about Mister Rogers and shows like that, and we'd even talk about some of the shows, some of the cartoons they even watch now. I mean, we talk about story structure and why I think it makes a good story or whatever. And I think they're taking it to heart. Again, because they have such a limited amount of time to watch TV that they really actually they look to their mother and me, and in the right opportunities the grandparents, to see what they think about things, and why is this a good show, or why is this a bad show, or and they're all writing too. All of my kids are writing stories now, and really, I mean, they really work at it. I wouldn't be surprised if all three of them ended up publishing someday, because
That's
they really get into it, and I love it. And whenever I catch them doing it, I'm like, oh, I can't encourage you enough. And so,
right.
journals are always top of the Christmas and birthday list. It's like, oh, here's a new journal,
That's
and what are you writing? And let's talk about your story, and here's what you could do,
that's great.
and not just, oh, isn't that nice? Isn't that sweet? You wrote a story. It's like, no, let's talk about your story.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your
That's
grammar.
That's good. Well, John Edwards, we are out of time, but this has been a very
Oh, it
fast
went too
hour,
fast,
and
Hank.
I know it's crazy. We'll definitely have you back on the show to come revisit and talk some more. But tell everyone where they can
It
find
would be
your
awesome.
stuff and where they can follow you and be involved in all this craziness that you're doing right now.
Well, thank you for that opportunity. Well, right now, one of the places that you can follow me in the books and actually get them online, the ones that are available, and once they become available, is a online writers community called Third Scribe, ThirdScribe. I mean, just like it sounds, thirdscribe.com.
Yep,
It's basically sort of this one-stop community. And, as you know, I mean, that's how you and I met, actually.
that's right.
Um, you can find links to the books that I have available, which right now is just Aurora's Royal Wedding, which is the Sleeping Beauty story. I think if you click on there from Third Scribe, it'll take you to Amazon or Barnes and Noble, where it's available. As far as the Triceratops, it should be out, I believe, in March, so I think next month,
Awesome.
and that will be available from Red Heart Books, which I think if you just go redheartbooks.com, it'll take you there. And again, this will all be on Third Scribe too. So
Yeah,
if
and I'll
for any
and
reason,
as yeah, and as you get those links, I'll add them to the show notes of this page also.
oh, awesome, thank you so much. And
Yeah,
then we'll see. I'm hoping to pitch a couple of shows, and we'll see, if any of those actually end up going. Or I've got some episodes of Tom and Jerry that are airing now on Cartoon Network. So if you just Google Tom and Jerry on Cartoon Network, I think there are 4 or 5 of those episodes. You can actually watch little clips, or I think in some cases you can watch the whole episode. And then I know that it was just picked up for a second season, so it's still available.
ah, so cool.
I'm not sure the airtime. I should know, but if you go to Cartoon Network,
Yeah,
online, they have their schedule and stuff. But
so
some
cool.
of those are there, and I'm excited for the new season too. I mean, it was a lot of fun. It's very much in the vein of the classic Tom and Jerry, the stuff that we grew up with. Um, and it was a lot of fun to write, and they're a great bunch of guys to work with um, at Warner Brothers, and then also the production company Renegade Animation.
Awesome.
So that was
Well,
a really long-winded answer, but
no,
I guess it really
that's
boils down to it. Everything will be at Third Scribe, and then my own website really is sort of in transition, so there's really nothing to see there. But again, I do have a blog that I'm maintaining at Third Scribe as well, and I'm
good.
trying to be better about actually blogging. Sometimes it's hard at the end of the day to think, the last thing I want to do is talk
Yes.
more,
Yeah, I get
or
it.
find something
I
relevant to say, but
right. I totally get it.
um,
Well, thanks, John. Thanks for taking time out to come on the show. I really appreciate it. And we're going to send everybody
well, thank you,
to
Hank.
check out your stuff.